The conflict between the United States and Iran appears to be entering one of its most volatile and defining stages yet. What began as a high-intensity air campaign has now evolved into a broader military confrontation with global consequences, strategic, economic, and geopolitical. At the center of this escalation stands Donald Trump, navigating a narrowing path between diplomacy and war. His administration is simultaneously pushing for negotiations while preparing for what could become a far more expansive military operation. In recent days, the Pentagon has intensified preparations for a possible escalation. Reports confirm that U.S. defense officials are actively considering deploying up to 10,000 additional troops to the Middle East, a move that would significantly expand the American military presence near Iran. This would add to thousands already deployed, including Marine units and elements of the 82nd Airborne Division, signaling that Washington is preparing for a wider range of operational scenarios, including the possibility of ground operations. The military buildup is not occurring in isolation. Since late January 2026, the United States has carried out its largest regional deployment in decades, positioning aircraft carriers, fighter jets, and missile systems across strategic bases in the Gulf. What initially appeared to be a show of force has now evolved into a sustained posture of readiness. Analysts suggest the speed and scale of deployments indicate that the United States is no longer preparing solely for deterrence. Instead, it is building the capacity for multi-domain warfare, combining air, naval, and ground forces. The conflict formally escalated in late February when the United States and its allies launched coordinated strikes on Iranian targets, triggering what is now widely referred to as the 2026 Iran War. One of the most significant operations occurred on Kharg Island, a strategic hub for Iran's oil exports. The United States conducted a large-scale bombing campaign targeting more than 90 military sites while avoiding critical oil infrastructure. Despite the intensity of these operations, Iran's military structure has remained intact. This resilience has forced Washington to reconsider its approach. Military planners are now exploring scenarios that go beyond air superiority, options that could involve securing strategic assets inside Iran, including nuclear facilities or key oil infrastructure. Such a move would mark a dramatic escalation and could involve direct ground engagement. Even as preparations for war intensify, diplomacy remains active, though fragile. The Trump administration has been pushing a multi-point peace proposal aimed at ending the conflict, including demands related to Iran's nuclear program and regional activities. At the same time, the administration has made it clear that military action remains firmly on the table if negotiations fail. The gap between the two sides remains significant. While Washington is demanding sweeping concessions, Tehran is insisting on sanctions relief, compensation, and a halt to military strikes. This mistrust has complicated diplomatic efforts and narrowed the window for de-escalation. At the heart of the crisis lies the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow but vital waterway through which a significant portion of the world's oil supply flows. Iran's actions in restricting access to the Strait have had immediate global repercussions. Energy markets have been thrown into turmoil, with oil prices surging and supply chains disrupted. In fact, disruptions linked to the conflict have already cut global oil and gas flows significantly, triggering warnings of one of the worst energy crises in decades. Countries across Asia and Europe are preparing for shortages, highlighting the broader economic stakes of the conflict. The United States has made reopening the Strait a central objective, but doing so may require direct confrontation with Iranian forces, raising the risk of a broader regional war. Back home, the war is becoming increasingly controversial. Public opinion in the United States has shifted, with growing opposition to continued military action. Political pressure is mounting on the administration to either secure a diplomatic breakthrough or define a clear path forward. At the same time, allies in the Middle East are growing increasingly anxious. Many fear that further escalation could trigger a wider regional conflict, drawing in additional actors and destabilizing an already fragile region. On the other side, Iran has shown no signs of backing down. Despite weeks of sustained bombardment, its leadership remains intact and its military continues to operate. Iran has relied heavily on asymmetric strategies, particularly leveraging its geographic position and control over maritime routes to counterbalance U.S. military superiority. Reports indicate that Iran has also strengthened defensive positions and is preparing for the possibility of a ground confrontation, especially around key strategic sites such as Kharg Island, which remain central to both economic and military calculations. What makes the current situation especially dangerous is the lack of a clearly defined endgame. The United States has shifted its objectives over time, from limiting Iran's nuclear capabilities to broader goals that include dismantling its regional influence. Such shifting goals have complicated negotiations and increased uncertainty about how the conflict might ultimately be resolved. Meanwhile, analysts warn that the conflict may already be producing unintended consequences. Iran's ability to disrupt global energy flows has strengthened its strategic leverage even as it faces military pressure. As the situation evolves, several scenarios remain possible. A diplomatic breakthrough could de-escalate tensions, reopen the Strait of Hormuz, and stabilize global markets. But if talks fail, the United States appears prepared to escalate further, potentially deploying ground forces and expanding its military campaign. Such a move would carry enormous risks. A full-scale ground war in Iran would not only be costly, but could trigger a wider regional conflict involving multiple countries and armed groups. For now, the world watches as events unfold. The coming days, perhaps even hours, could determine whether this conflict moves toward resolution or spirals into a far more dangerous phase. The crisis underscores a broader reality. Modern conflicts are no longer confined to battlefields. They ripple across economies, reshape alliances, and redefine global power dynamics. In this case, the stakes extend far beyond the United States and Iran. They touch every nation dependent on energy markets, every region connected by trade, and every government navigating an increasingly uncertain world order. The question is no longer whether the conflict matters. It is how far it will go and who will ultimately shape its outcome.